Now comes the harder question. What should you use as the greeting? Hi by itself is too informal, but hi plus the first name is okay for less formal emails, but avoid hello. It's not commonly used in email, only in phone calls. How about this greeting? Is it okay? Not really. It's fairly rare that we use Mrs. or Miss in a greeting unless you know the woman wants to be called by this title. Business and professional women want to have equality like men, so it's none of your business if a woman is married or not, just like it's not your business if a man is married or not. So use Ms. instead, a Z sound. Also, with a title, Ms. or Mr., it's most typical to use only the title and the last name, family name, without the first name. How about this greeting? Dear Cheryl. Yes, it's okay, but it's relatively informal. You should know the person and have some type of personal relationship with him or her, such as a colleague, a team member, or a friend. I wouldn't use it with a stranger or in more formal emails. Here's another good option. If you don't know if a person is a man or a woman, just using the full name, Cheryl Holt, without the title Mr. or Ms. is acceptable. It's also acceptable in a less formal email not to have dear, but always use dear in a letter or a formal email. Using a title plus the last name, Dear Professor Holt, is a good option. But you could abbreviate professor like this. If you want to be even more formal with a professor or someone with their PhD, use Dr. Holt. What do you think of this greeting? Please, never use Dear Madam or Madame. First, a madam is the owner of a prostitute house, so it's very strange to be called madam in the United States. In speaking, we substitute ma'am, but it's rare to write ma'am. Also, don't use dear sir because it implies that anyone in authority is a man, and it may insult a female reader. Later I'll tell you what to use if you don't know the name of the person. Let's review the options for acceptable greetings in the order of formality from least formal to most formal. Hi Cheryl, or simply Cheryl, are the least formal. Dear Cheryl is the next, and then Dear Ms. Holt. If the person is a professor, then use Dear Professor Holt, or Dear Dr. Holt, which is the most formal in the United States. Notice in the U.S., doctor is more formal than professor, which is the opposite in Britain. Let's review the greetings to avoid are a title plus a first name, such as Professor Cheryl or Mr. Mark. Cheryl and Mark are first names, but a title must always be followed by a last family name. Also, you can't have a last name only. If you use the last name, you need a title such as Mr., Ms., Doctor, or Professor. It's also not common nowadays to use to whom it may concern or Dear Sir/Madam. But what if you don't know the person's name? If you don't know the name, use a title. For example, Dear Hiring Committee, Dear Admissions, Dear Recruiter, or Dear Head of the History Department, but try to find a name if you can. What about greetings in subsequent emails? You've written someone and they answer. What name do you use in your next email? Let's look at an example. In the original email, Stacy Lee writes to Dr. Holt with an invitation to present at an upcoming event. Stacy writes, Dear Dr. Holt, on behalf of the International Society, I'd like to invite you to make a presentation in the graduate program seminar in spring semester. And her email includes a few more details about the event. Stacy ends her email with sincerely and her name, Stacy Lee. Dr. Holt writes back and uses "Hi, Stacy" as the greeting, and then accepts the invitation. I would be glad to do this presentation. Dr. Holt then signs the email with only her first name. What should Stacy do? Should she reply with "Dear Cheryl," or again use Dr. Holt? Here are some options. Since Dr. Holt just signed her first name, Stacy could reply Cheryl, but I'm guessing that feels too informal. Another safer option is to just use Dr. Holt again, this time without the "dear." However, now there's a thread established with several emails. It's likely that Stacy will just reply to a previous email with no name. No greeting in a subsequent email is common.